Well, welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us again tonight. Tonight we're going to make, we better hurry. Somebody's going to eat it all up. Old-fashioned chicken and dumplings. Here are your ingredients. Please pause and write this down, and hey, we love it if you like our videos and share them and subscribe to our channel. Let's get cooking. I've actually made chicken and dumplings for you before, but it was a little different. I made it with braised chicken. This is the old-fashioned chicken and dumplings, and I've got a whole chicken. I cut it into quarters. We're going to roast it. I've got it covered in some vegetables, just like we were going to make bone broth. Going to salt it. That'll help tenderize and flavor the meat and get the vegetables to let loose their flavors quickly. And then I'm going to put a little olive oil on top of this. And this is going to roast in the oven at 350 for about an hour. We want to go ahead and get that great flavor from browning. I'm sprinkling some red pepper flakes on. You can use black pepper. And I'm going to season it just a little bit with a touch of my dried sage and a little bit of thyme. I think thyme always adds a great flavor and complements chicken. So let me get these herbs on here. Now, you know, old-fashioned chicken and dumplings don't have any vegetables in the dish itself, but we're going to get the great vegetable flavor and taste from roasting this ahead. And as always, you know, I really think you need to brown things before you boil them. Most things, not everything, because you get so much better flavor. So this is going in the oven for an hour. I'll set the timer once I get the oil on. And then we'll be back and I'll show you what we got. So it's been an hour. It should be done. We want this chicken to be done at this point. It'll get cooked a little more, but not a whole lot. So the way you check chicken for doneness is you stick a knife in or a fork in, and if the juice runs clear, no pink, it's done. I'm turning it around to try to find the thickest, fattest part. So see, it's done there under the wing. Let's try it in another spot. There, that's the fat spot. So you see, that's done. It's not overcooked, but it's done. The juice, there's no red juice running out. So we're going to set this aside, let it cool a little bit, and then I'll be back. And here we go. I've let this sit long enough to cool, about 20 minutes. And I'm going to refrigerate it pretty quickly now, but 20 minutes is okay. I've got the gloves on. Even though the chicken is already cooked, I've got the gloves on because the meat's still pretty hot. And I'm going to pull the big nice chunks of cooked chicken meat off, but I'm not going to get everything off the bones because these bones are going to go back in the pot along with the skin and quite a few little pieces of meat because we want to make a nice rich bone broth. So you see I've got a lot of really nice big chunks, and I'm going to refrigerate this. And I've got the makings here for a nice big pot of broth. And I'm going to cook this twice. I will. Whoops, there's a good chunk of meat. Let me go ahead and move that over. Going to put this in a pot and start the process of broth. Well, I've transferred this to my great big stock pot. And I'm going to add 6 quarts of water and heat it back up. When this comes to a boil, I'm going to cover it, turn the heat down to about medium-low, and let it simmer for about 2 hours. I'll set the timer. Now to the dumplings. Different people like their dumplings different. I like mine to be small, not puffy. This is 2 cups of self-rising flour. That's a cup of chicken broth, and this is 1/3 of a cup of lard. You can use Crisco or something like that if you'd rather. You could use butter. This is more like biscuits than a pie crust, but they're not going to be as puffy and soft as biscuits. I'll show you what I mean, but I'm going to make them like I make biscuits. Make a little well in the middle and start creaming your shortening. I don't know any way to do this except with my hands. Now this broth is still a little bit warm. You can use water. I just find they have more flavor if you use broth. I wouldn't use milk. That makes them too light and fluffy, and dumplings are a little dense. And don't worry about overworking your dough. This is not like biscuits. We want to toughen this up just a little bit. So not only are we using warm broth to help release the gluten, but we're going to knead it several times when I get it all mixed, because you want them to hold up to being dropped into boiling water. I've used almost the whole cup of broth. These are going to feel a little, I guess, gummy, and that's okay. You don't have to use all of that. You want to have a nice texture here so that they hold up in your hand. They hold their shape. Thicker and more elastic than biscuit dough. So I've got my pastry cloth and my rolling pin, but you could just put a little wax paper on the table and pat it out by hand if you want to. But this needs to be kneaded a little bit. I'm going to sprinkle it with flour. I've got a bowl over here. You can make these dumplings hours ahead. You could even make them the day before if you want to. So flour your hands really good, and we're going to knead this a few times, and we may add flour a couple of times. We want to get it nice and firm and work it. Working it like that releases the gluten and helps it be more firm. Makes it more al dente, stands up to the teeth. And when it starts feeling kind of elastic in your hand, you can see the texture that you're going for there. We're going to put it together and cut it in half, and I'm going to work half of it at a time into dumplings. And as I said, you can make this the day ahead, but you really do need to make it an hour or so ahead so that it can chill. So I put a little flour in this bowl to keep them from sticking. And I'm going to roll it out, and you don't have to be particular how you roll it out because you're going to cut these into dumplings. Now I like to cut my dumplings into rectangles. My mother always used to cut them into strips. Really doesn't matter. It's your preference. These would be firm enough if you wanted to cut some out with little cookie cutters just to get the kids interested. These will work that way too. So here we go. A pizza cutter works really well for this. I may not get them very uniform. It doesn't really matter. Just cut them out in any shape you like. As I said, I'm going for rectangles here. And then I'm going to put them in this little dish. When I get them all cut, I'll cover them with plastic film and put them in the refrigerator, as I said, for at least an hour, but the day ahead is fine too. Okay, our broth's been going for about 2 hours. It's nice and rich. Let's get ready to put it all together. Okay, I've cut my chicken up into fairly small pieces, just however you want to cut it. My mother used to shred it. I've got chunks, and I'm gonna cover this in the broth, and I'll cover it and leave about 1.5 inches at the top. Now that's not all the broth. As I said, I'm going to make some bone broth with what's left. I just want enough broth to leave about 1.5 inches to 2 inches at the top to give myself room for the dumplings. So all that goes back in the pot. It's all going to be a part of the bone broth. Now I'm going to skim a little. Most of the fat I think I left in the pot, but I want to skim off if there's too much fat, and you'll just have to judge that by your chicken and how much you get in there. But I'm going to skim a bit of the fat off. You can leave some. Too much of it, and it spoils the flavor. But there's not too much on here. And this is a good time also to go ahead and taste it for salt and pepper, and if you want a little bit more spices. Most of this is going back into the bone broth pot. Now I'm going to let this come back up to a nice rolling boil, because that's what you need before you add your dumplings.
This is Athena. Smile, Athena. You gonna cook, aren't you? Tell me. Gonna help Grandma cook? Okay.
So I was busy with Athena and missed a shot here. When this comes back to a boil, a good rolling boil, you just start dropping in the dumplings. And I drop them in fairly quickly. And if you've made them right, they won't come apart. They'll hold together. And we'll stir them a little as we go. Watch and you'll see how they hold up. Just push them down in, make a little room, stir it up. So when I get them all in, I'm going to let it simmer for about 15 minutes. Just long enough for the dumplings to get done. We don't want them raw in the middle. Then I'm going to plate this up and show you what we got. Well, here you have it. Old-fashioned, classic chicken and dumplings. And yes, it's a lot of trouble. Yes, it's a pain in the patootie. It's so good. It takes all day. You can find shortcuts and do some of it ahead, but it's going to take a little while. And these dumplings have what to me is the perfect texture. But here's the reason that you'll go to that much trouble. Because dinner at Grandma's house ought to be about good food and good memories. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. Hope to see you again tomorrow.